Welcome back, decoders, to the channel. Thanks for tuning in today. Hope everyone's having a great day. In today's video, we're going to cover something that I didn't really expect to be covering, but when things come along and these interesting connections come, I feel obligated to just share what I find. So in this video, we're going to talk about A Nightmare on Elm Street and how it's connected to the JFK incident, which happened at 411 Elm Street. And I just want to give a thank you to Zach Hubbard from Gematria Effect News, who posted this connection last night that really got me started on all this. He posted that there was a game going on last night between the Dallas Mavericks in the NBA and the New Orleans Pelicans. Okay, and this was significant because the JFK incident happened in Dallas, and the guy who Lee Harvey Oswald, the guy who did the incident, he was born in New Orleans. Okay, so born in New Orleans, died in Dallas, and you have those two teams playing last night, and the Pelicans could become 4-11. Again, the screenshot you're seeing here, guys, is before the game ended. The Pelicans at the time were 4-10, and Zach had said, well, they could become 4-11 because, well, the shooting happened at 411 Elm Street, and again, Lee Harvey Oswald was from New Orleans, and he did his thing from 411 Elm Street in Dallas. And of course, how perfect it was that this is what ended up playing out, is that the Pelicans became 4-11, like 411 Elm Street in Dallas, Texas. So with that, I began to think more about this whole connection with Elm Street and the movie A Nightmare on Elm Street. And what do you know, guys? I found a huge rabbit hole of info that I'm not sure if anyone's ever found before, but we're going to go into it. And we're also going to connect it to kind of what's going on with Biden right now. But either way, it connects to yesterday's game. They're definitely doing a riddle with the JFK thing. Because again, guys, the JFK incident anniversary is only 2 days away. So it makes sense that this is happening now. So the first thing I need to point out is that you have this 411 Elm Street where Lee Harvey Oswald did his deed. And then you had the movie called A Nightmare on Elm Street. Well, in Gematria, in standard English Gematria, a nightmare equals 411. Kind of like Lee Harvey Oswald was at 411 Elm Street. And again, I don't think it's a coincidence that they, instead of just calling it Nightmare on Elm Street, they use the word A Nightmare on Elm Street. And that A Nightmare equals 411, okay, which is the address. Not only that, but in Satanic Gematria, the guy's name, if you take out his middle name, he is probably known to many as Lee Oswald. That just happens to equal 411. So you can judge on the significance of that if you want, since his middle name is taken out, but his real name is Lee Oswald. So the fact that he did his thing from 411 Elm Street and his name equals 411 is quite interesting. And consider that Lee Harvey Oswald was the nightmare. He was a nightmare to the country, right? And a nightmare equals 411. So how perfect to start this decode with that 411 connection. And again, don't forget, last night the Pelicans from New Orleans, where Lee Harvey Oswald was from, they became 4-11 right before the anniversary of this shooting. So with that out of the way, I'm going to make this connection with this movie, The Nightmare on Elm Street, and the JFK presidency, because JFK was officially declared the victor in the early morning hours in the Dallas News on November 9th, 1960. What's important about that, guys, is the movie A Nightmare on Elm Street came out on November 9th, 1984, exactly 24 years after the November 9th, where Dallas Morning News was reporting that JFK had won the election. So November 9th, guys, 1960. And then the movie comes out November 9th, 1984, 24 years later. And again, this year we're in the year 2024. So maybe could be pointing to more. Of course, we've already had the Trump incident already this year in 2024. But is there something more coming before the end of the year? Maybe, maybe not. I don't know. But this is huge, guys. I showed this in one of my prior videos. And notice that the Dallas Morning News was reporting that Kennedy had won on November 9th, 1960. Well, the date November 9th can be written 11/09. And when you use Jewish Latin gematria and you type in the date November 9th in words, you get the date 1109. Okay? So again, just think about that and how crazy that is. But I'm going to show you something even more crazy as we go through here. Not only was he officially declared the victor on November 9th, which equals 1109, exactly 1109 days later, he was taken out by Lee Harvey Oswald in Dallas. Okay, so you have this newspaper from Dallas on November 9th, 1960, announcing his victory, and November 9th equals 1109. Exactly 1109 days later, in Dallas, he gets taken out. Okay, I mean, just wow. I mean, that's absolutely insane if you think about it. But this number is important because this is also a connection to the numbers 9/11, right? And again, what are the chances? 1109 days later, after this Dallas newspaper, he gets taken out. Now, how does this tie into A Nightmare on Elm Street? Well, because again, I told you the movie was released on 11/09/1984, and big shout out to Derek from Gematrinator, who told me not only does November 9th equal 1109, but the year, if you type it out in words, 1984 equals 1109 in the same cipher as November 9th. So this movie literally came out on November 9th, 1984, and if you type out November 9th, it equals 1109. If you type out 1984, it equals 1109. And the main character of this movie, The Nightmare, is Freddy Krueger. And Freddy Krueger in standard gematria equals 1326, guys. And 1326 is the 1109 composite number. I mean, just think about that. You have not only does the date the movie released equal 1109, the year 1984 equals 1109, and the main character equals 1326, which is the 1109 composite number. And again, Freddy Krueger is in Nightmare on Elm Street. The shooter of JFK was in Elm Street. And again, from JFK's victory to his taking out was 1109 days. I mean, it's just absolutely perfect. Now, not only does Freddy Krueger equal 1326, which is the 1109 composite number, the actor who played Freddy Krueger, Robert B. Englund, he equals 1326 in Sumerian. So not only does, his stage name, Robert B. Englund, which is what he goes by on his Twitter, you can see it right here, Robert B. Englund, equals 1326, like Freddy Krueger. He played Freddy Krueger, and again, 1326 is the 1109 composite, which connects all the way back to the movie release. 1109, 1984 equals 1109. So how crazy it is that Robert B. Englund has that 1326, and that's, again, this is how he goes by on his Twitter. Official Twitter of Robert Englund, aka Freddy Krueger, Robert B. Englund. So now here's where it gets crazy. Okay, so we've been talking about the 1109s, which is kind of like a 9/11. Well, another number we need to speak about here is the number 1095, okay? Because the 1095 is the 911th composite number. So from the birthday of Robert Englund, who played Freddy Krueger on 6/6/47, to the death date of John F. Kennedy's brother, Robert, on 6/6/68 is exactly, it's exactly 21 years, right? But not only that, it's 1095 weeks and 6 days. But the 1095, again, is the 9/11th composite number. So again, from Robert Freddy Krueger, Englund, to Robert F. Kennedy, who he died on Freddy Krueger's birthday. I mean, this guy died on Freddy Krueger's birthday, and that was 1095 weeks apart from his birth to his death. And that's the 9/11 composite number. Okay, and they're both named Robert. So it gets better than that, guys, because not only was it 1095 weeks between their incidents, from the death of JFK to the release of the movie, the secondary release, because there was two release dates of this movie, 11/09 and 11/16/1984, but from the death of JFK to the secondary release date is 1095 weeks again, guys, the same amount of weeks between these two. And now you have the 1095 weeks. And look at that, guys. The shooter's name, Lee Oswald, equals 1095. Okay? So 1095 weeks from JFK to the secondary release of Nightmare on Elm Street. Lee Harvey Oswald was on Elm Street, and Lee Oswald equals 1095, like 1095 weeks. And don't forget, that's the 9/11 composite number. But not only that, we got to bring Joe Biden into this, because Joe Biden is in the news recently for declaring that Ukraine can use weapons. And this was happening at the same time that this basketball game was paying tribute to this JFK thing. Well, Joe Biden was born on November 20th, which just happens to be the same birthday as JFK's brother. But from Joe Biden's birth to the JFK incident, the year, okay, so basically this measurement, guys, is from Joe Biden's birth to the release date of the Nightmare on Elm Street in the year that JFK died. So again, Nightmare on Elm Street released on 11/16/1984, but if you measure from Joe Biden's birth to the release date of this movie in the year that JFK was taken out, it's exactly, again, 1095 weeks. Again, the same number I've been showing you. And don't forget, JFK is the first Catholic president. Joe Biden is the second Catholic president. So they're just automatically connected, okay? But I'm going to lay all this out for you guys to understand in one slide. And this is going to be mind-blowing, so just pay attention. So again, you have Robert F. Kennedy, the brother of JFK, both of them taken out, right? He has the same birthday as Joe Biden, only they're many years apart, but they have the same birthday, 11/20, okay? Born 11/20, born 11/20. Now, like I told you, if you go from Biden's birth to the 1963, 11/16/1963, which is the release date of the Nightmare on Elm Street. So again, you just go 21 years exactly before the release of this movie, you land on 1095 weeks after Joe Biden's birth. And that was 6 days before the JFK incident. Okay? And the reason that's important is because the amount of time between between Freddy Krueger's, the actor, England's birth, and the death of RFK was exactly 1095 weeks and 6 days. This represents the amount of time from Joe Biden to the 1963 release date of Freddy Krueger of Nightmare on Elm Street, which left 6 days until the death of JFK. Do you see how it plays out, guys? 1095 Biden to the movie in 1963, and from the movie to the death, 6 days, which is the exact amount of time between these two men. And he died on Freddy Krueger's birthday, and he's the brother of him. Okay, so it goes perfect. And he is the first Catholic president. He is the second Catholic president. And these two share the same birthday. And don't forget, Lee Oswald equals 1095. And this is the measurement that weaves all of this together. Okay, and that's the 9/11 prime composite number. So how perfect it is, guys, that this slide right here just pretty much brings it all together. Okay, I mean, now what does that mean for us this year? Because we just had this Freddy Krueger tribute last night with the Dallas and the New Orleans teams that I showed you in the beginning. And it's interesting because if you look more into the connection between these three, Joe Biden, Robert F. Kennedy, and JFK, well, look at where these two were born. These two brothers. They were born in Brookline, Massachusetts, which in Satanic equals 1095. And that is the same number that weaves all these people together. So the two brothers are born in the city, which equals 1095. Okay? Now, notice that Joseph Robinette Biden, his full name, without his junior, equals A Nightmare on Elm Street in two ciphers. And it equals Brookline, Massachusetts, which where these two were born. Okay, and again, these two, this guy the first Catholic president, this guy the second Catholic president, these two share the same birthday. And A Nightmare on Elm Street equals Joseph Robinette Biden in two ciphers, and it equals Brookline, Massachusetts. Well, I want you guys to focus on this number 325 because today, the day I'm making this video, is Joe Biden's birthday, which is the 325th day of the year, and Joseph Robinette Biden equals 325, like A Nightmare on Elm Street. Wow. They both equal 325. Today is Biden's birthday on the 325th day of the year. And there's a lot more to that number 325, but I'm not going to get into it here, but this pretty much brings it all together. And one last thing to connect Joe Biden to this narrative right now. And Joe Biden is in the news right now for for allowing Ukraine to use the missiles, right? And that's why I think this connects to this narrative, a nightmare. Is this going to be a nuclear nightmare or a war nightmare? Okay? But don't forget, guys, Joe Biden is commonly referred to as Sleepy Joe, which this makes a complete sense in this narrative because the whole movie of A Nightmare on Elm Street is about Freddy, right? Coming to you when you fall asleep, and Sleepy Joe is always falling asleep, right? 1, 2, Freddy's coming for you. 3, 4, better lock the door. 5, 6, grab your crucifix. 7, 8, gonna stay up late. 9, 10, never sleep again. So Sleepy Joe, how does that connect? There's probably more to it, guys, but I just left it there. And hopefully, maybe you guys can leave me some more comments, additions in the comments. But it all seems to go perfectly together. And I think that's why Biden's in the news right now. And I think that's why they paid tribute to the nightmare, to the Elm Street Lee Oswald thing last night. So yeah, guys, thanks for watching as usual. And let me know what you guys think in the comments. And I will see you guys in the next video. God bless and take care.